listening to 101 Part-Time Jobs with me, Giles Bidder. It's where we hear from musicians and artists all about doing that in a time where it's probably been the hardest it's ever been. On today's episode, we hear from someone who has a mythical quality about her, Anna B. Savage. She's got a new record out next Friday called You and I Are Earth, and there's this alchemy behind her songs. I remember hearing her for the first time a few years ago and thinking, kind of like, what is this? And in a way, that's kind of what every record, you hope, makes you feel. It's something different, but still familiar, but leads you down a path to kind of discover something new. Anna B. Savage totally does that for me. The tracks Lighthouse and Agnes off this new record are spectacular. Only 2 singles have come out before this, so that means there's 8 songs that are going to be a total surprise, which in itself is a surprise nowadays. If you're listening to this, you're probably aware of Anna B. Savage already. If you're not, stop this and listen to her first 2 records because they are really something special, and then come back here for the chat. There's loads of great stories in this. We got along really well. I'm really excited that you're here. Thank you. If you're able to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/101 part-time jobs, but that's a matter for next time because I'm about to get some badges. So if you sign up there, I'll be able to send you a badge depending on where you live. Sorting that out behind the scenes now. But for now, you can click 5 stars wherever you're listening to this, on Spotify or Apple. You can click subscribe there, and you can follow us on Instagram. We're putting up more and more videos. We love hearing from you. And if you've got your own story, from a work gaffe or a work mistake, maybe it was the best thing that ever happened to you at work, drop me an email at giles@mightymoonmedia.com, and I'm going to start reading some of those out, so do get in touch. Coming up after the jump, we've got Anna B. Savage, about to release her 3rd album, You and I Are Earth, next Friday. Looking forward to this. 101 part-time jobs. 101 Part-Time Jobs just reached 400 episodes, and we won 2 awards at the Independent Podcast Awards. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. The reason we've been able to keep going is because of sponsorship. We've been lucky enough to work with some brands who we believe in and we understand the message of, and we hope you do too. This episode is sponsored by DistroKid. If you're looking for a way to put out your music, if you have a friend, a niece, a nephew that doesn't quite know how to get their music up on Spotify or Apple, tell them to head to DistroKid, where you can be your own record label effectively. That was a dream 10 years ago. I wish I had that growing up. But for an affordable price, you can go on DistroKid. Head to distrokid.com/VIP/101pod to get 30% off your running costs there for the first year. So if you've made a record and you're not quite sure what you wanted to do with it, you can head to DistroKid and release it yourself. distrokid.com/VIP/101pod for 30% off your first year. Right now, we'll get back to the episode. Getting that from your parents, when knowing they had like second jobs and knowing that there's this kind of thing that you can spend your whole life dedicating yourself to, and then that not really being sort of recognized in like regular quote unquote society. Looking back now, like reflecting on that time when you're thinking, okay, I want to do this thing, but it's almost not deemed like a real worthwhile thing in so many people's eyes. What was your kind of relationship to that? That's quite like a serious question, isn't it? But how seriously were you able to take yourself playing music?
I guess it's weird because I had the perfect hypocrisy of. It sounds mean saying the hypocrisy of my parents, but like that, I don't mean hypocrisy in a bad way. I just mean they had dedicated their entire lives to being singers, and yet both of them had other jobs, and they happened to love those other jobs as well. But it was that thing of, you can dedicate yourself to this one thing, to the thing that you are most passionate about, to music, to singing. But you're not going to be able to do just that because it's not feasible. So it was like, you can be at once completely dedicated and involved, but you also have to have this like ancillary thing that props it up, that supports it. So I guess it was interesting, A, that I did English Lit, and B, that I didn't really start a career after uni. I just kind of went into doing like retail jobs and stuff. Like I didn't start being like, oh, I need to get on a ladder so that I can continue up the ladder so that then I can support my music career. I just was like, I only want to do music. I don't really understand how I can do music while I'm doing another job and focusing on that. So yeah, it was kind of both at once.
In my experience, even if you were proactive of trying to get like a desk job, a salaried job after uni, I mean, it's hard. It's really,
it's super
really
hard. I've never been particularly like officious. I was always much better at the creative stuff than I was at the kind of more formal stuff, the more structured, like, I guess, businessy type stuff. So I didn't even really see where I would fit. Whereas like immediately I went to work in a bookshop and I was like, this makes sense to me.
Yeah.
I love it here. I can smell the books. I can touch the books. I'm not writing emails all the time.
I think there's a thing that a lot of people can relate to where it's seemingly you spend your life waking up, doing a commute that makes you feel absolutely shite, and then all you do is end up sending emails and receiving emails, ostensibly just making someone, no, not ostensibly, definitely making someone else more money.
Yeah.
And this is something that everyone has. Everyone sort of our age. I mean, anyone sort of 18 to 40 probably has today.
Yeah. And sometimes I envy them for it. I really do.
Well, I envy people who can get through it, who don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. I guess I envy structure. I envy stability and structure and consistency and, knowledge of income. And but obviously, I also absolutely love my job. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing it. So I feel like everything in this conversation is going to be yes and both and
totally
all of the above.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Similarly, I think there's absolutely fine about doing something you love, but complaining about it sometimes. I think we're totally allowed to do that.
That's my MO.
So how have you put structure into playing music?
Great question. Don't know that I can answer it in any proper way. I feel like now that I'm on my kind of third album cycle, I'm noticing the structures more than I'm affecting them myself. But for example, like it's like being a musician is quite cyclical. Like when you're putting out an album, before the album comes out, you're doing kind of marketing, social media stuff. Then the album comes out, then you start doing all the live stuff. And then once that's died down, you go into the studio and you do the recording stuff. So I kind of, now that I've done it, now that this is my third time around that kind of system, I definitely see that structure. And I feel like I worked really well with cycles. I'm not very good at being completely consistent all the time. So actually it works well for me, but only now that I know what the segments are.
What's to come.
Whereas like doing my first album, doing all the social media for it and stuff, I was like, is this what this job is? Have I completely misunderstood what being a musician is? Yeah. And then obviously it's because I'd never done a tour, and it was at the time when it was COVID, so like the touring came quite a lot later. But yeah, so I would say that my structure now comes in a much the parameters for the structure are much bigger. They're like over the course of maybe a year or a 6-month cycle. Yeah. The most important structure that I've put in place for myself is having a separate work bank account and then paying myself a salary from that. That is the single most important thing that I've done in the last few years.
That is sick. That's pro. That's pro as fuck.
Thanks very much. No, that felt really... I mean, it's still terrifying because I look at my bank account and I'm like, I have 1 month's rent to pay myself, or like I have 1 month's salary to pay myself. But yeah, just giving myself that consistency made a huge difference in terms of, I felt like everyone was talking about budgeting and like, how to survive when you don't make that much money. And then I was like, but I don't know how much is coming in, like it's proper feast and famine. But actually imposing that structure on myself was really useful.
Well, you don't, as a musician, you don't know what to expect. And so when things happen, I suppose you have to be like reactive to it. So you can't plan. You don't know how well the next song or the next tour or the next album or the next sort of manager label relationship is going to go. So So that, like, and it seems like such an obvious thing, but I don't think anyone really talks about it. It's like it seems to me like you're just kind of like following this thread and like trying to, establish yourself. That seems like a boring way of saying it, but it's when the music's so magical and it takes you different places, but you sort of blind. You're blind.
Yeah, 100%. You're not even following a carrot in front of you. You're following like the vague outline or the smell of a carrot, and you think that it's there, and you're like, if I just get a little bit further, maybe I can get the carrot.
So how do you reconcile that with making such like moving music, moving for us to listen to and presumably you to make, and like where you put yourself in such a magical kind of place? How do you reconcile that with the sort of reality of it?
Well, I guess like that's the bit that I do this for. The making of stuff. That's what fills me up. That's what makes me feel like I'm, acting with integrity, like I'm being true to myself, like I am, like creating is just, what drives me. It's what kind of fills my soul.
Yeah.
So it almost feels like all the rest of it is working supplementary to that, to support it, really.
Yeah.
And actually, I remember listening to the Orlando Weeks episode of this podcast, and him saying that like his kind of focus is that the album that he makes means that he's able to create the next one. Yeah. Like it's successful enough that he can continue that path. And that really chimed with me, because I was like, that's kind of how I see it too. Like, as long as I can make something, then I can deal with marketing and doing social media, and then playing live and being away from my family loads and my friends and stuff, because I get to make these things, and I get to, like in the example of this album, I get to just be really earnest and express my love for my partner and for my new place that I live. And like, I don't know that there are that many ways where in a job you are able to express emotions and express your kind of true feelings. And not only that, but like maybe have it chime with someone else. Like that is ridiculous. Like, what a luxury.
A lot of these things are like almost kind of simple ideas, but they're huge. They're also huge, and they take years to kind of work out and like frame. As a musician, as a writer, as a drawer, as a painter, as a producer, because we all grow up, we've all had completely different upbringings. Even the ones that are similar are slightly different in terms of what your parents or the people that have raised you have told you what you should be doing in life. Because I believe that we all have that thing inside of us of something that we think we should be doing, but actually the coolest thing you could be doing is the opposite of that a lot of the time. I don't know. I have a problem with authority, so it comes from that. But I just think that the stuff that I think is the coolest stuff, which like film, TV, music, art, is all stuff that like people have actually sort of gone out on a limb and gone totally like against the grain, unnatural, uncomfortable. Not uncomfortable all the time, but just otherwise it wouldn't exist. Otherwise people would be doing the same shit over and over. I know these is quite like lofty
only
ideas.
be Marvel films.
Yeah, it'd be the fucking Snyderverse, which I actually know nothing about. But
I still don't quite know how to express it, because it is that weird thing of being like at once very simple ideas and also like incredibly complex, and the entire way that I live my life, which feels like a difficult thing to try and express. But I guess actually something that helps me to make albums, which I can't remember your exact wording, but it was very lovely about them being, kind of magical adjacent or whatever you said. Is that I don't think I'm very good at being a musician. I feel like I'm too much of a person to be a good musician. I'm not thinking about music 24 hours a day. I'm not sleeping, eating, dreaming it. All of my friends aren't musicians. Like my whole life, although I grew up with parents who are singers, and my brother-in-law is a singer as well, and it does exist within my sphere. it's not my whole life. And it feels very important to me to have almost everything exist outside of music.
Yeah.
And then I guess I get to kind of funnel my actual life experience into this expression that I found of, like, for example, making an album where I do get to try and kind of summarize or like encompass something that I felt, and package it nicely and try and make it presentable or like digestible for other people.
Well, I think that's the right way. Well, there's no like right or wrong way, but I feel like that's the right, basically a sensical way to make music, because you're not constantly obsessed with it. Like, music's about real life and real experiences and people and conversations.
But I would say it's possibly also why I don't make that much money.
What, do you really think
people
you'd make
who are obsessed with it? Well, you know, like Ed Sheeran, he was straight from the offset. He was like, I am interested in being the best songwriter, the best that I can be. And he worked fucking hard at it, and he is like,
But isn't he like quite a sociable guy? I feel like I've seen interviews, and I'm really intrigued by that guy, because he did start off for years sleeping on people's sofas. He slept on my sister's friend's sofa, so that's like a connection that's cool to me. But it seems like he also has like a social life. He also likes having a beer and going to the football. You know what I mean? Like, I think he still has a life, has like a social life.
Yeah, I mean, most of the people I know who are workaholics still have a social life to a point. But I guess maybe it's just, maybe I'm seeing them and I'm like, wow, that's dedication that I don't understand. And maybe I don't want to do that. I want to be able to pick up things and drop things and be like, oh, this is nice, I like this. Oh, maybe I like this now. But also it does feel bad sometimes. Sometimes I'm like, oh, I wish I was more consistent. I wish I could fucking focus. Both and.
I was thinking today with my work, doing this show and doing freelance work for radio and other podcasts, it's like I always feel behind. I rarely feel like I've got everything in front of me. I'm like, yep, on the track. Yeah. I'm always kind of one step behind, or like on top of it, being like shit.
Yeah, I feel exactly the same. Yeah.
Jobs. Are you excited about this new record?
I am. I'm excited. I feel quite nervous, but I'm excited. I think it feels like a very delicate, gentle record, which I think I feel a bit nervous about, because it doesn't feel like a particularly delicate, gentle time in the world.
No.
And I don't know that it's the. I don't know. Maybe it's nice for people to have something delicate and gentle, but I know personally, like, my attention span and my ability to kind of concentrate on stuff is quite garroted and compressed at the moment. So yeah, I guess I feel a little bit nervous about sending out something that I'm like, oh, this feels so precious to me.
Yeah, I understand it. I mean, how could you? Is there any way that you can shape it in a way, or like deliver it to people in a way that puts them in a space where they, can do that Sunday morning, Saturday morning, no phones time?
Yeah. I mean, I hope so, but I also don't want to be prescripted. Like, I don't know how. I don't even know how to do that. I can gently suggest it, but I guess ultimately people will just take stuff in as they're going to anyway, and I can only just like cross my fingers and hope.
You can't control time, and when I mean that, when I'm thinking of that, I think like you could, in 5 years' time, it could be a very normal thing, or people will have phones that aren't, they're just black and white and they don't have social media anymore. I can totally imagine a world where that happens.
Yes. There's a phone that I've been watching. It's not out yet, but I'm definitely buying that phone. It's got a keyboard. It's like a BlackBerry, but the screen is like a Kindle.
Yes.
So it's all black and white.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's the fucking phone I need. And it gets apps and stuff, so I can still find out, I can still go on Google Maps, work out where I'm going. But I'm like, I can't be dealing with this beautiful, like, delicious, vibrant, colourful thing in my hand that just desperate for my attention.
And you can't deny it as well. Like, it's we all get sucked in. I think everyone gets sucked in. I think you have to be very strong to not get sucked in.
It's literally built like that. It's built to hack our brains into. It's a slot machine.
Yeah.
The consistent slot machine that we carry around with us.
And at some point, I don't think you have to be too. I don't think you need to be too left field to be like, oh wait, all these apps that are vying for my time and my attention. Like, what is it doing for me?
Yeah.
We're working for them. You know, I don't. Yeah. You don't have to be too like.
No, it doesn't feel too woo woo to kind of be like.
Yeah, that's what happens. You know, we're smart enough now to like. It's in the business pages of the Financial Times. You know what I mean? It's like.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
So, what about work fuck ups? I like ending these episodes about talking about people's work gaffes.
Yeah,
and
this is so funny. I feel like I haven't even talked about all the different jobs that I've had, which is quite lol.
Oh, please go. I mean, what are the most memorable ones? If you're at like a dinner party, you know, if you're at a dinner party and it's like sharing stories of like most memorable temporary work.
Well, I was my first job was a chugger. So I was the people on the street who stop you for charities. But I was it was Sustrans, which is like a cycle charity. Okay. So we would stop people while they were cycling.
Doesn't sound dangerous.
Which was quite hard. It doesn't sound dangerous. It was so fun. I loved it. It was quite hardcore.
Well, so they were like road cyclists.
So I can't quite remember the spiel, but Sustrans, basically most of the cycle networks in the UK are actually not like governmental funded. They're all Sustrans, which is a charity. So like all of the kind of like in Manchester, for example, there is, what's it called? Is it the Fallowfield Loop? There's it's an off-road one. So they're kind of, it was a disused railway. It goes all the way to Chawton Water Park. So it's kind of a nice, you know, walking path, cycling path. Mm-hmm. But there would be those little barriers, you know, where you have to kind of weave through them with your bike. So that's where we would set up. So we're not like stopping people, you know, running out into the street trying to stop people. And it tended to be off roads. It's like stuff that's separate from roads, or like along a canal path, for example.
Yeah. So you get them when they're at the most vulnerable.
Yeah, and they're most angry apparently. Well, that was good.
That is difficult. That is the chugging, the charity street fundraising is difficult.
I really feel for people trying to stop people walking around. I quite enjoyed it though, to be fair.
Well, you got through it.
I think, yeah. We were always in twos, which was nice. So like if someone was mean to you or spat at you or something, you could be like, oh, very nice. And a lot of, we were just outside in, you know, what was basically like beautiful areas. So it was like on a disused railway line or like, you know, by a canal. Sometimes beautiful, sometimes not.
Not a Westfield.
And watching the seasons pass and kind of, you know, we'd cycle there and it was nice. But yeah, I've done a lot of different things. I've done a lot of retail. Mm-hmm. I'm like, worked in a bookshop for a while, worked in a stationery shop, worked in a toy shop for a while. That was fun. Yeah. I've been a PA. But probably my favorite job that I had was I used to teach people how to make terrariums. Okay, cool. Yeah. So I would go, it was this amazing company who found this like super niche. And we would basically go into WeWorks at lunchtime and do terrarium courses for people. Yes. Go to where the money is. Yeah, go to where the money is. And then, you know, in the evenings, we'd do them in cafes and stuff around South East London. That's ace. Yeah. And then we did them I think we did one for Google and one for Facebook in like the Barbican in the conservatory. Yeah. Yeah. And I loved that job. And I got to do like every once in a while, I'd do a bit of floristry. We'd be doing like wedding floristry. But I got to meet loads of people. I got to basically shove my hands in dirt all day. And I got to play with moss. And also it was really good experience being in front of an audience. Like it sounds weird, but it really did help me as a performer because I am terrified of performing and I've always had incredible stage fright. So anything that got me in front of a group of people was very useful. Fascinating. And doing something that's a bit out there, you know, like you're showing someone, it's a bit of show and tell, which I guess is what playing music's a bit like. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, show and tell. And it's really fun to see how different people respond to everything. Just people are fascinating. I love people, and so multifaceted and so surprising and so similar, and so it was just so enjoyable. I did that for a few years.
Great. A few years doing that. That's a good enough time to get your hands dirty and meet people.
Yeah,
if you like that.
Yeah,
that's great.
It was great. It was really great.
You'll never guess what happened today at work. On my third strike, my boss is such a turd, such a jerk. It's not that deep. They drive a Jeep. I was only trying to have a laugh. There it goes again. It's another work gaff. Did you make any specific boo-boos? Any work gaffes over those years?
Yeah, I've been thinking about this. And I'm gonna share a story which is a little bit basically there were two that really stuck out to me. One was actually just very sad, and I was like, I don't think that's going to be a very good story. It just was like sad. And then this other one was when I was working at the toy shop, and I basically at the toy shop, I would, if I had a package or something, I would tend to get it sent to the shop because I'd be in probably the next day, and there was always someone there, so someone could always sign for it. So I didn't bother with getting stuff sent home anymore. I just sent stuff to the shop. And there was one day where I was off, and I got a phone call from my colleague, and she basically had received a package for me, and she had been slightly absent-minded, and she was talking to some customers. Bearing in mind this is a toy shop, she was talking to some customers, and she hadn't really looked at the package, and she had just opened it, and what I had ordered to the shop was a rampant rabbit sex toy, and she took it out of the packet without really acknowledging it, and she was talking to a customer with their children there, and then looked at it and then was like, oh my God. And then when I walked in the next day, everyone like cheered, and so that was a big, quite enjoyable for everyone, I would say, gaff that I did.
Brilliant.
It was
good.
Good.
Sex positive. Now's a good time to be sex positive.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a good time to be sex positive, but now for sure. And I mean, I don't have any shame about it, but it was just quite funny that it was like a kid's toy shop.
That is brilliant. That's really, really, really funny. Good on you. I feel like working at a toy shop, you kind of have to have a small child, in your heart.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. And I very much do. There is no hiding it. But met some seriously good people. One, like I run a book club, and one of my friends from the toy shop is still in my book club. Yeah. And then another one, we also work together in the bookshop, and then we work together in the toy shop, and I still, hang out with her and stuff. And
how do you do your book club? Is that on the WhatsApp video? Do you get in person? No,
in person. I fly in for it every time.
Really?
Yeah, it's like one of my favorite things ever.
That is the best thing I've heard.
One of my favorite things I've ever done.
Best thing I've heard all week. So you'll fly back into London for the book club? Yeah.
It's been going for like 8 years now.
How often?
And when it started, every couple of months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good frequency.
When it started, we were all living in London. And since then, someone lives in Scandinavia, someone lives in Wales, other people live in America, but when people are back. So for example, for Christmas, quite a lot of people were back. So we scheduled it so as many people who, like our friend from America, could come. But because I'm only in Ireland, and often, a lot of my work is in London anyway, I'll fly back for it because I love it so much.
That's a great reason to hang out.
Yes, it really is. Yeah.
Because it's not just going to the pub, it's doing something that makes that's healthy, keeps your brain sharp. And it's fun. Yeah. Reading's fun.
It's really fun.
Sometimes, for me anyway, reading can feel like a bit of a slog to get into it. But then once I'm in it, you forget about all of that and everything sheds away and you're just in this world.
Yeah, it's magic. I love reading. I read quite a lot last year, but I definitely feel like my ability to get into a book is I find that harder at the moment. So that's the thing for this year to try and work on.
But it's been really lovely to meet.
Yeah, you too.
So there was Anna B. Savage here on 101 Part-Time Jobs. Her new record, You and I Are Earth, is out next Friday. Loads of stories in that, loads of great moments. I'm grateful, I'm thankful for that chat. I hope you enjoyed it as well. If you did, make sure you click subscribe to this show. We put out 2 episodes every week. We'd love to have you along for it. And don't forget, if you've had a work gaffe yourself, maybe you've opened up a dildo in a toy shop on your break, maybe you've had the best day ever where you found 60 quid on the ground. 60 quid doesn't get you much place anymore. Email me at giles@mightymoonmedia.com. I'd love to hear from you. If you want it read out, that is. Email me at giles@mightymoonmedia.com. Be great to stay in touch. I want to hear from you. Cheers.
101 Part-Time Jobs is hosted by Giles Bidder and produced by me, Olivia Swash. This has been a Mighty Moon Media production.